السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Is the sound clear? Because I don't see any of their options on the screen except for my screen here. So بإذن if the sound is clear, just let me know. Comments bar, where is it? لحظة. Oh, طيب. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Okay, I see the comments here. طيب. Is it clear now? Is it working? Clear, alhamdulillah. Some destinations won't get comments. But yes, you can just type here. I'm gonna turn off my WhatsApp because I don't want calls in the middle. بإذن الله تعالى. Let's see. If whoever else is around here, let me know. Just type in anything, say salam. I want to know who else is in the session. Has it started? Is it live? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Asmaa Abdul Hameed, and I have been previously an instructor with the IPC, and it's a pleasure being around here again. Inshallah, today's topic, as was chosen for a very important purpose and cause again, as well as the principles of raising children. And it's nice to see familiar usernames and people from the past that were a part of my journey when I was at IPC. Wa alaikum assalam. Allah يحييك. شلونكم؟ شو أخباركم? How's everyone doing? Inshallah, everyone is doing well. And let me just see this. Okay. طيب. Like, shall I start immediately or do we wait for a little bit more? I can't see the usernames of Facebook users except for Samaya. I think it's the feature is disabled here. Has it started? Because it says starting soon, inshallah, on the platform. طيب, thank you for updating the bar. Now I can see the topic as well. As you see, the topic that was chosen for tonight was the principles of upbringing children as Muslims in a world of, you could say, in 2021 and beyond. It's quite a challenge because things have changed. A lot of things have changed. The circumstances, the educational system, the environment that we're raising our kids in, and the influence of social media and whatnot. So it's a very, very broad topic to, like go over. If you choose one session would not encompass it, but it's easier for me to just, discuss the principles and discuss the basics that we need to keep in mind as Muslims. And especially, I think the majority of the listeners, viewers would be females for this session. So for you to keep in mind, what is it that your children require from you as a mother, or if you're not a mother, if you have children around you, if you deal with kids, what do the children require from you to see of Islam, of the principles of your religion, so that they know how to implement Islam in their lives, and they know how to take care of themselves, especially when you're not around. Uh, we know, as you know, like back in the day when we had no social media, we had no internet, it was easier to control how your kids are raised in a certain environment. And you were their only direct source of, you could say, um, directions, guidance, as opposed to now, your kids are being guided and directed if they're online, offline, and especially online, depending on the kind of application they're using, they could go in any direction. So how do we make sure that our children or the children that are around us, they stay safe? Number one thing as a Muslim that we need to keep in mind is our role is that of a guardian, and our role is that of a caretaker of the future. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not send us into this world purposelessly. He did not send me here for me to gain everything, learn everything, and move on with no concern or care for the future. And the future is not just my future in this world and in the akhirah. The future that I should be concerned with is the future of the people under my care, people around me, the communities around me, the families around me, and especially the children, because they are most vulnerable, and they're more vulnerable than the people, and then people of our age. Because as adults, we know how to make decisions. We know the right from wrong. We know the halal from haram. But what about the children? Who teaches? Who is going to be, the guiding light for them? How do you make sure your kids, they recognize Islam, they take it seriously, they implement it in their lives, and they're able to live as Muslims into the future? Not that they're Muslims today when you're around them, when you're talking to them, when you're lecturing them, and once they leave your care, they leave your environment, whatever they see on the media, whatever they see on social media, they follow it, they go with it, they go by it. How do you make sure you raise your kids properly? How do you make sure you do the right thing for your children? It starts with you. It starts with you as a person, as a human. You see what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you of the resources. You use those resources to raise a better future. To raise a better future around you. The first resource is the dua, that you sincerely make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to show you the truth, to guide you to the truth, to keep you on to the truth. And the best way of you finding the guidance again in this, like you could say, in this society in 2021, especially, and moving forward, is that you hold on to the Quran. You follow the command that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed. And how do you follow it? You start step by step. If you know nothing, inshallah, today you'll take some tips with you into the future that you can implement starting from level 0. What does Allah expect of you? Allah expects you to live your life as a righteous Muslim. What is the command that Allah has made fard on every Muslim, no matter who they are? He made the command of seeking knowledge fard on all of us. It is fard on a male and a female. And especially as females, we have to make sure that we are gaining the right knowledge, enough knowledge to be able to handle the complexities that we may deal with in raising children and nurturing children. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the first command when He revealed it was iqra. Anytime you come across this word and this verse, and in my years of, I started practicing Islam like a decade and a half ago. And every time I see this verse, I see this being applied in the corporate setting, in the communal setting, in the families. No matter where you are, you have to learn, you have to understand your situation. And based on your knowledge and information that you have, you act and you handle things and you nurture things. You were sent not to boss people around. You were sent to this planet, and this time, to nurture things, to take care of things, to take care of the people around you, to live, to serve the mankind, to do something for them. And how do you know if what you're doing is helping people? You look at what Allah expects from you, and then you implement those principles in your life, and you first and foremost take care of your religion, that you educate yourself, you learn about Islam, you practice it, you pray your salawat, you make sure you know what you're doing, your salawat are in place, your fasting is in place, your zakat is in place, you're taking care of the halal and the haram in your life, and then you teach the same principles to others around you. And the way to do that again is with care and with nurturing, especially the children. Children respond not to lectures, not to commands. And you cannot even have a kid sit in this like for 5 minutes to listen to you, no matter how upgraded the stream is. They're like, it doesn't concern me. It doesn't have it because it's not for them. These words are for the ears of an adult, a mature person who can turn things, or who can protect the children from the storm that is brewing outside, especially on social media. If you have kids around you, do not hand them these devices without any supervision. If your children have to be online, make sure that they are online in a safe setting under some supervision. But again, this is a constant monitoring that you'll have to do 24/7 until and unless you learn what needs to be done. And how do you teach your children that? Is when your kids are young, from 0 and to up to 5, 6, 7 years old, it's not recommended that you hand them any devices. But 6 and above and beyond, what you need to do is you give your kids, you teach them how these things are to be used, but you don't hand it over to them. And once they turn into teenagers, and that's where the battle and the conflict begins, because they need their freedom. They need to find who they are, and they're going to find who they are away from you. So how do you make sure when they reach that level and stage that they are already prepared? You cannot prepare them for everything. Life will hit them like it hits us. So how do you make sure they stay safe? You raise them on the principles of Islam again, the principles that you yourself learned, that you encourage them to read, you encourage them to stay close to the Quran, you teach them about the halal and the haram, and not that something would upset you, but that it would upset Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because if it upsets you and your child knows this, he'll do it behind your back so that it doesn't upset you. But if he knows that this thing upsets Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not in the sense that emotional upset, but this is not what Allah expects of a Muslim, that Allah expects a Muslim to be upright, honest, sincere, transparent, loyal, and live a straight, clean life. When you teach your kids the right principles, they'll stay away from the haram, because the haram will become ugly to them. But if you give them enough room to explore and go on explorations and experiment and experience things, you don't know what you'll end up with. You don't know where your child is going to, what your child is going to become, especially in these testing times. It's very difficult for us to even hand devices to our children around us, even for a few minutes, because you don't know what they'll run into the moment you're not paying attention. Or even if you're looking at it, you both look at something on the screen that they were never supposed to see, but decide, and now they have to live with that image for the rest of their lives. So one of the favors, biggest favors, a huge favor you can do on the children around you is that you do not, give them unsupervised access to the media, especially social media. That is number one. That is the second principle that you can take care of. The first is that you encourage them to implement Islam the way you implemented in your life, that you encourage them to stay close to the older resources of reading, reciting, reviewing, and you encourage them to live their life as much as is possible offline. Your salat is offline, your wudu is offline, your siyam is offline. So, you don't need to be online for this. You keep them as far away as is possible for you from social media. During the pandemic, I know people got used to staying online. People got used to having these classes online, and it does not have that impact. It has a weird effect on your brain. It's just not part of our nature to stay here like glued to the screens, and especially for kids, it's quite damaging. So for as much as you can keep them away from these devices, do that, so that when they are learning something from you, they get it it's filtered and it's controlled. Information that you see online is unfiltered and uncontrolled, and once they see something, the image is going to be there with them forever, and they may or may not share it with you. So you don't want to open doors of shar on them. Shar that we even like as adults, we don't have the time to sit and look into the all kinds of drama that ensues. There was a time YouTube was a clean platform, Facebook was a clean platform, but now they all have served and moved towards marketing and doing that which hooks people and turns you into and addict online, and you don't want your children to be addicted to something that's not good for their akhirah. This is, like, you could say, if you could just title it the social media and all that. And I know parents think, oh, my child is just using an iPad, he's just using the touchscreen for a bit. What these devices do to you is they create impatience in you. If you don't like something, skip it, dislike it, go find something else. And real life is not like that. Sometimes you have to struggle, sometimes you have to be patient, sometimes you have to, or a lot of times you have to be patient in order to find, the reward of the sabr, that your character grows. These devices don't encourage this in children. And if, as much as the younger they start off with these devices, the more dangerous it is for them to stay on them, because they'll grow into adults who don't have patience at all, who'll not have sabr. And you don't want to create and raise a generation that does not have sabr when life tests them, because life is always going to test all of us. And especially for kids, it's not their fault. They didn't know this was going to happen to them. Who do you blame for this? You have to take responsibility here as a parent. You make sure your children are given the resources that they need in order to grow up as righteous Muslims. And who do you look up to now? Okay, you have to do your salawat, you have to read, recite, you have to make dua. You look into the examples of Anbiya alayhim as-salam, found in the Quran, like Ibrahim alayhi salam, who prayed for his children, who prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless him, and then Allah blessed him after a long struggle. And then he prayed that Allah raises his children as righteous believers, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted his dua. So you look up to his example and follow his footsteps. What do I need to do as a parent, or as a caretaker, if I have kids around me? How do I make sure that these kids are raised within the boundaries of Islam? You don't do it with force, you do it with love. You nurture them, you respect them as a human. Just because it's a teeny tiny a few inch child or 1 foot kid does not give you the right to disrespect them or harm them or abuse them or bully them. Never ever bully your children, or somebody else's children for that matter, or anyone for that matter, but especially children, because bullying breaks something inside a person's heart. It would break something inside of them that is irreparable. And if you do this as a parent, they may never recover from it. They may grow up with a personality or multiple personality disorder, and will be struggling to find themselves, and they would have a love-hate relationship with you. For those of you who were ever bullied, or you dealt with something of the sort, if you saw something of the sort, you know the kind of impact it could have on you as an adult. And what about the child? The child has no clue. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has handed you this responsibility, and you are supposed to take care of it. How do you make sure you take care of it to the best of your ability? You do that which will help them become stronger, and you cannot force them to accept anything. You cannot pressurize them. But it doesn't mean you sit there and lecture them until, that's also another form of bullying. But that's, like you're using lectures to bully them into accepting what you want out of them. That's manipulation. Don't do that. You show them love, you show them care, you show them concern, and you tell them that you're there for them no matter what happens. It doesn't mean that they're free to do whatever they want to, and they're free from the consequences of their actions. But you tell them how to live a righteous life, because this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expects from all of us. And as they don't know what's good for them, they don't know what's bad for them, for you have to place these principles in place for them. Sometimes you may have to sit with your child and teach them 1, 2, 3, these are the things that are acceptable, and 1, 2, 3, these are the things that are not acceptable. And then you sit back and you observe. And if they ever need you, they ever need to talk to you, you leave the door open for them, because the kids will make mistakes, they'll tumble, they don't know how the world operates. You have to learn from the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam how to control your temper. He never ever scolded a child. He had a slave. He had someone working with him, working under his care as a child, and he never ever lost his temper. So you have to take it from his sunnah. If your messenger did this, he did this for a reason. As an adult, you have to be mature enough, old enough, and be emotionally responsible enough that you do not take out your temper on your child. Your child is not responsible for your day. He's not responsible. He or she is not responsible for what has happened to you. You have to be. You are the caretaker. You are the guardian here. And if Allah has given you this responsibility, He is going to ask you about it on the day of judgment. How you handled it, how you maintained it, how you took care of those who were the most vulnerable under your care. And if you cannot, if you don't have resources to teach them everything, then take them to someone who can give them this knowledge, someone that you look up to, someone that you know would be a good role model for them. It's very important for parents to have role models for their children, and not role models from the media, but role models that lived a righteous life, like from the lives of Sahaba, lives of the Prophet, and you encourage your kids to be like them, because this is why Allah sent us in this world. You explain things very simply to them. If you don't have an answer for your kids, if you don't understand something, don't take it again out on them. Don't pretend with them. Don't lie to them. Don't hide things from them. It doesn't mean you overshare. It means you speak to them on their level, and that is very difficult to do when kids come at you with all sorts of questions. And okay, the child will not understand, especially when they have questions about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you don't have enough knowledge. It's okay, you can learn together. You have simple YouTube series that you can watch together. Lots of series are out there in your preferred language, or you can find out information. You can take Islamic classes, and you can share the information with your child. Remember, your kid is not going to remember all the teeny tiny details, but what he's going to remember, your child, he or she, your son or daughter, what they will remember is how much you cared for them, how concerned you were for their well-being when they were little and vulnerable and in your care. And when they grow into teenagers and adults, they will not go behind your back and abuse the freedom that you've given them, whether or you gave them by choice or by force. They would not do things that would upset you, even if you're not there, because you raised them on the principles of Islam, that whether or not I'm present, Allah made me your guardian, and He is the one watching over all of us. Whether or not I'm there as a parent, Allah knows what you're up to, and there are consequences. Nobody's free from the consequences of their actions. So where you teach them about Islam, number one, you keep them away from social media. Number two, number three, you have them worry about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and not the people. Not that don't do it because the people will get angry at you or the people will punish you. No, tell them that Allah put all of us in this world as a test for one another when they come to that stage, not when they're too young, because they wouldn't understand what a test is. Where that test is like a teacher testing them in the school. But but tell them that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed us here for a reason. He wants us to see who does the best among us. You give them simple principles, and if you cannot teach them much, be there as a good listener for them. Spend time with them. Don't spend time together just on social media. Never ever use these devices, because this is something very common that parents do. They put their kids in somebody's care, and they give them the devices, and they're like, Alhamdulillah, now I can go take care of my life. Your child is your life. Your child is the responsibility of your life. What are you doing to them? Why are you neglecting them? This neglect is going to catch up with you in the future if you're not careful. So you have to take it seriously. The child doesn't know all of this. You know this, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made you responsible. So a lot of responsibility falls on our shoulders as adults, as parents, as mothers, as fathers, as even if you don't have children around you, your own children, then your nieces and nephews, and any other child. If you see if you happen to be in contact with children, make sure you leave a good impression for them, and not a fake impression, just that you were very kind, but you give them something that they can hold on to when times get difficult, that they find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One thing, one sentence, dhikr, you teach them dhikr, you teach them akhlaq, you teach them the right and wrong, and not by lecturing them, by embodying it in your character, because nothing impresses a child more than your character. Kids love people who are jolly, who are happy, and they love people who nurture them. Kids run away from people who are strict, or they have some like agenda where you're like, no, I want you to, and they lecture them too much. Kids don't get lectures. They don't like being lectured. So you have to make sure, as much as you want to share things with them. Don't overshare. Hold back and let them talk to you. Let them share things with you. And inshallah, if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to drop them in the comment section. I'll get to the questions by the end of the session. So for now, we covered the 3 principles here, that you start off with yourself, you take care of your religion, and then you help your child do the same. You keep them away from social media. The third is you let Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be their main concern. And then you mentor, you play the role of a mentor and not a forced mentor in the life of your child, which is that you are there for them when something happens. And when they mess something up, when they make a mistake, that is the best time for you, and it's a test for you. Whether they break a glass, your favorite dish, whether they break your touchscreen, they lost something, that is where you will be tested, and you could lose your lifetime's temper on them, that I did so much for you, and this is how you're so careless, you shout at them, you bully them, you scold them, and it was just a mistake. Mistakes happen all the time. You have to mentally prepare yourself long before this happens, because in the moment of time, in the moment of rage, you may not even realize what you're doing, but it would come back to haunt all of you if that's the case. So what you do is you remember this, that if such a thing happens in front of you, your child makes a mistake, he damages something, or she causes some issue, that you'll be kind with them and you deal with it very, very, very politely. It's very, very, very easy for parents to lecture their kids in the moment when they make mistakes, and this is one of the biggest mistakes parents and teachers and anyone can make, that when somebody has made a mistake and the child knows that he's made a mistake, and now you tell them that he has shamed you in front of the entire the planet, the family, the neighbors, the friends, and what are the people going to think? So it's people shaming them, and it's not a good feeling to make them go through, because their concern won't, at that point, they need your help. They need a solution from you. They need to know that you're still there for them. You still love them. You still care for them. And you both will find a solution together, because, hey, mistakes happen. We're humans. We all make mistakes. So how do we find a way of not repeating in the future? This is what your mindset needs to be. Not that you tell them to be concerned with the neighbors. See, you messed something today. Now your neighbors are going to think bad of you, or your aunts and uncles won't like you because look at what their children do and what you do. Never ever compare your kids at this vulnerable age, and at any age. It doesn't matter whether they're 5 or 25. You'll make sure your kids they know that you love them regardless of what happens. And if they make a mistake, there's always a way of fixing things. As long as you're alive, as long as you're still breathing, there's always a way to make up for things. The only time you cannot make up for something is, and then you can with sadaqah and dua once people move on. But if you're there in the life of your child, you want to be the kind of example for your children that if you move on from this world, they pray for you, they remember you, and not with guilt, but out of love and respect, because you love them so much. You showed them how to be a better person. You showed them how to live their life on, you could say, better principles, not with the principles of guilt, shame, and remorse. A lot of cases these days on social media and offline are of, if you look into the lives of people and read their stories and comments, you'll see that the kids grew up into messed up adults because the parents were not there for them, or the parents never really. You don't have to do everything for your child, but at least if you're doing one thing for them, don't hold it over them. Don't hold them hostage to your kindness. Don't hold them hostage that I do so much for you and this is how you repay me. Well, your child doesn't know what to do. If he knows, and if you've spoken to him, find a way of finding solutions together where you can be on the common, you could say, page in this relationship. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to everyone who said salam and I missed it. Okay, I cannot see, by the way, the emojis if you're making them. So for now, I think I'll just cut it short with these principles, and inshallah, if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to ask and leave the questions. If you have any concerns, you can still reach us out on social media, whether using like IPC's page. And again, these lectures, these sessions are sessions of accountability for ourselves. Like, I want to see where do I stand as a person, as a human, in the life of a child, in the life of a person. As much as it's about lecturing them, this is about controlling myself so that they are raised well. I cannot raise children properly if I myself am not grounded, and I will be only grounded when I am patient and I take these things seriously. They are the gems of the world, they are the gems of the future, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created the kids in our lives, and especially this era, for the future. They're not for the past. So you cannot just, where you have to merge and blend and create a balance between helping them stay offline as much as possible, and if they're online, you raise them in a way, in a manner where they themselves are not interested in looking at the fitna. Because the fitna is not just, it's, some of the fitna online is, most of it is just gossips. He said, she said, this celebrity attacked the other celebrity attacked, came back with an attack. And it's such a waste of time and so much drama just to gain some views, at the expense of what? Ratings, and at the expense of your child's attention. Their attention is very precious. Like, our attention is very precious, what we pay attention to, what we don't pay attention to. But for children especially, they have no clue what this world is about, what's happening, where the things are going. And it would be a good idea to sit with them, to talk to them about things that are important in the life of a Muslim, from the life until the death. That in case, as a parent, if something happens to you, what are the things that they need to take care of? If there is anything that you want them to take care of, you do not want them left in the blue, at the mercy of nothing that they don't know how. If you manage your affairs, if your financial affairs were sorted, if and of course this is for adults. I'm not talking about children who are at the age of 6. I'm talking about kids who have reached bulugh, maturity, and they understand that they now, they are responsible, they will be held responsible for this, above, and usually it's above, around the age of 15 and 16, where you talk to them about things that are important. As Muslims, I have to learn, as a Muslim, I have to know about these things first and foremost, and then I can pass on the knowledge to my kids when the time is right. And if it's not the right time for them, then some responsible adult in your life who would talk to your children about this if you're not around. And let me know if there are any questions. I would be more than happy to help you with the questions. If you have any confusion with regards to whatever was shared in this session tonight. Okay. There was a time in the past where we would, have lectures for an hour and a half and above, but due to the pandemic and whatnot, you could see the timing has gone down a little bit. I'm waiting to see if there are any questions. If somebody has dropped anything, not even you have the option of a private chat. If you don't want to leave a question in the public, you can just leave them in the private chat. We could just, mention the question without mentioning your name, because I want people to take back something with, like, you think over it. It's okay if you don't have a question, but you reflect on it and you see what is it that you can add or delete in your life, from your life, for a better future, for kids to have, to benefit more from. Like, make sure your interactions with your children are intentional, or anyone else's child are intentional, not forceful, that you are loving, kind, nurturing, caring, and you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed you in the life of this child for a reason. وجزاكم الله خيرا for everyone who participated, everyone who listened. I hope this was a beneficial short reminder and a session. I think we'll wrap it up then. Let me know, give me the signal so that we can wrap it up. Oh, there is خلاص إن شاء الله. That was the moderator of the chat. I thought a question finally dropped. خلاص بإذن الله. It was a pleasure seeing all of you here, sharing my humble thoughts and the principles. I hope you benefited. And inshallah, hope to see you somewhere between now and the future. بإذن الله, there is another session. بارك الله فيكم. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.